I'm standing on the sidewalk with everything I own in a cardboard suitcase, held together with kitchen twine, watching my daughter call me a burden to my face. The moving truck is loading furniture I picked out with my husband 40 years ago. November wind cuts through my thin coat like it knows I have nowhere warm to go. My hands won't stop shaking, but I can't tell if it's the cold or the rage building in my chest, like a pressure valve about to blow. Rebecca won't meet my eyes. She's studying the pavement like it holds answers she doesn't want to speak out loud. Brandon stands beside her with that expression men get when they've already made a decision and are just waiting for everyone else to accept it. The movers work around us like we're furniture they have to navigate. Neighbors I've known for decades suddenly find reasons to be busy inside their houses. Mrs. Patterson across the street closes her curtains. I watched her children grow up from these same windows she's now hiding behind. The word keeps echoing in my head. Burden. Not difficult situation. Not temporary challenge. Burden. Something heavy you carry until you can't anymore. Something you put down and walk away from. 2 hours ago, I thought this was just a visit. I'd made tea. Earl Grey, the kind Rebecca liked when she was young. I'd set out the good cups, the ones with the painted roses that had survived 3 moves and 40 Christmases. I thought maybe they were coming to help me figure out the furnace issue. The pilot light kept going out, and I couldn't afford to call a repairman on my $1,200 monthly Social Security check. Brandon had arrived first with that particular tone in his voice. The one people use when they're about to deliver news and want you to know they've thought it through carefully and there's no point arguing. Mom, we need to talk. 5 words that change everything. Rebecca came in behind him, carrying folders. Legal documents, I realized later. They'd come prepared. They sat me down in my own living room, the room where I'd nursed them through chickenpox and helped with homework and celebrated every achievement they'd brought home. Rebecca's National Merit Scholarship letter, Brandon's acceptance to business school, both their wedding announcements. All of it happened in this room that suddenly didn't feel like mine anymore. The house is too much for you. Rebecca's voice had been carefully neutral, like she'd practiced this conversation. You're 70 years old. You can't handle the maintenance. It's not safe. I'd wanted to argue that I'd been handling it fine, that the furnace was just old, not dangerous. That I knew every creak and groan of this place like I knew my own heartbeat. But Brandon had pulled out a brochure before I could speak. We found a wonderful assisted living facility. Very affordable. You'll have your own room. They provide meals, activities, medical care if you need it. The brochure showed a small room with a single bed and a shared bathroom down the hall. The cost listed at the bottom was $3,000 monthly, more than twice what I received from Social Security. I'd done the math in seconds the way you do when money has been tight for years. How would I pay for it? We've already talked to a buyer for the house. Michael's tone had shifted to business presentation mode. He's offering $485,000. That's very good for this market. We'll use that money to cover the facility costs. You'll be taken care of. The words had hit like physical blows. You're selling my home. It's our house now, Mom. Susan's voice had gone hard. You signed it over to us, remember? We're making the decision that's best for everyone. 6 months ago, they'd convinced me to put both their names on the deed. Michael had said it would make everything easier if something happened to me. No probate, no legal fees. We're family, Mom. We'll take care of you. I'd trusted them completely because they were my children, and what mother doesn't trust her own children? Best for everyone, or best for you? The words had come out before I could stop them. Michael's expression had turned cold. That's not fair. We're trying to help you. You're becoming a burden, Mom. The constant calls about things, breaking the worry about you being alone here. We have our own families to think about, our own responsibilities. There it was. Burden. The word that would follow me onto this sidewalk and into whatever came next. I never asked you for anything. My voice had been shaking. I've taken care of myself since your father died. I've never been a burden to anyone. Well, you are now. Rebecca had snapped her patience, exhausted. And we're not going to keep carrying you. The house sells in 2 weeks. The buyer wants it empty. You need to pack what you can carry and be ready to move to the facility by the 15th. And if I refuse, the house is legally ours. Brandon's voice had gone flat final. If you refuse to leave, we'll have you evicted. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. They'd left after that. Took the real estate agent with them to discuss staging. Didn't offer to help me pack. Didn't ask if I needed money. Didn't stay for the tea I'd made when I still thought they loved me. Now I'm sitting on this suitcase on the sidewalk, and I have $50.38 in my checking account and $6 in my purse. The math is simple and brutal. $56.38. That's the total value of my financial existence at 70 years old. A newspaper tumbles past in the wind and catches on my suitcase. Someone's discarded Morning Burlington Free Press. I grab it before it blows away, more reflex than intention. The back page of the classifieds has a small advertisement that stops my breathing. County auction, condemned properties. Today, 2 p.m. Minimum bid $1. I read it 3 times to make sure I'm understanding correctly. The county is auctioning properties that have been abandoned or condemned, trying to recoup unpaid taxes. The auction is this afternoon at 2 o'clock at the County Administration Building. I look at my suitcase. I look at the house that's no longer mine. I look at the $56.38 that represents everything I have in the world. If I'm going to be homeless anyway, I might as well be homeless in a place I own, even if it's condemned, even if it's worthless. At least it will be mine and nobody can take it from me ever again. The County Administration Building smells like old documents and institutional indifference. I arrive at 1:45, dragging my broken suitcase behind me with the 2 cardboard boxes balanced on top. The auction room is in the basement. 30 people already there, mostly men in business casual clothing. Real estate investors looking for cheap properties they can flip for profit. They're loud comparing notes on previous auctions, joking about the garbage the county is trying to unload this time. Several of them glance at me when I come in. Their expressions mix confusion with dismissal. An elderly woman with a broken suitcase clearly isn't serious competition. I find a folding chair in the back corner and sit down as quietly as possible. The auctioneer is a heavy-set man in his 50s named Donald Pierce, according to the placard on his table. He starts exactly at 2 o'clock with the rapid-fire delivery of someone who's done this 1,000 times and wants to get through number 1001 as quickly as possible. All right, folks, let's get started. We've got 23 properties on the docket today. All sold as is, no warranties, no guarantees. You buy it, you own it. Problems and all. Minimum bid is $1. Payment due immediately upon sale. Cash cashier's check or money order only. Everybody clear, the first properties move fast. A commercial building downtown goes for $45,000. A lot with foundation issues sells for $12,000. A house with water damage brings $38,000. The investors bid aggressively clearly, knowing which properties have potential despite the problems. I watch and learn. When a property is announced, Pierce describes location, size, known issues. Bidding starts at $1 and climbs from there. I count my money 3 more times, even though I know exactly what I have. $56.38. If anything goes above that, I'm done. After 90 minutes, they've worked through 21 properties. My palms are sweating despite the cool basement air. Pierce shuffles his papers, clearly tired. All right, second to last. This one's a real winner, folks. His sarcasm is obvious. Several people laugh before he even describes the property. Property number 22, located at the end of Timber Ridge Road, approximately 12 miles outside city limits. Structure is a single-family dwelling, approximately 1,200 square feet, built circa 1870. More laughter. A house from 1870 being auctioned by the county is clearly a disaster. Property has been abandoned for approximately 15 years. No electricity, no running water, no septic system currently functional. Structure has significant roof damage, broken windows, foundation issues, and extensive mold. County inspector has condemned the property as uninhabitable and recommended demolition. The laughter gets louder. Pierce grins and continues. Access is via unpaved forestry road, impassable in winter months. No nearby neighbors. Property sits on 2.3 acres of heavily forested land. And just to sweeten the deal, there's an active family of raccoons living in what used to be the kitchen. The room erupts. This is the funniest thing they've heard all afternoon. So who wants to start the bidding at $1 for this prime piece of real estate silence? Nobody raises a hand. Nobody wants a condemned house in the woods with no utilities and wildlife for roommates. Come on, folks, $1. It's a steal at twice the price. More laughter, but still no bids. Pierce shrugs, ready to move on. $5. My voice comes out quieter than I intended, but the room goes silent anyway. Every head turns. Pierce squints toward the back. I'm sorry, did someone bid $5? I stand up so he can see me clearly. My hand shakes slightly as I hold up a $5 bill. I bid $5 for the property. Complete silence for 3 seconds. Then the laughter starts. Not polite chuckling. Loud, mocking laughter. Several investors actually point at me. One man's face is red from laughing so hard. Lady, do you have any idea what you're bidding on? A voice calls from the middle row. That place is a death trap. 70 years old. You'll die out there in a week. You're literally buying a raccoon condo. Another man adds to renewed laughter. Pierce holds up his hand for quiet, but he's fighting a smile. Ma'am, I need to make sure you understand what you're bidding on. This property is condemned. It's not livable. It has no utilities. It's 12 miles from town on a road that's not maintained. Are you sure you want to proceed? I'm sure. My voice is steady now. $5 is my bid. Pierce looks around the room. Anyone want to bid against the lady $6? Anyone more laughter, but no competing bids. Why would anyone pay $6 for something that would cost tens of thousands to make remotely habitable? All right then, going once at $5, going twice. He pauses, giving anyone a chance to stop this. Nobody does. Sold. Property number 22 to the lady in the back for $5. Applause mixed with laughter. I ignore it. I walk to the front of the room and carefully count out 5 $1 bills. Place them on the table in front of Pierce. I'll need to see ID, and you'll need to sign the transfer documents. His amusement is fading into something like concern. Ma'am, are you really sure about this? I'm legally obligated to sell it to you since you're the high bidder, but I really think you should reconsider. I'm sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Pierce sighs and pulls out paperwork. What's your name? Eleanor Kathleen Hayes. As he fills out forms, a younger investor approaches, probably in his 30s, expensive watch designer jeans. Look, I don't know what your situation is, but that place is genuinely dangerous. The floor is rotted through in places. The roof has holes. There's no heat, no water, nothing. You can't live there. You're going to get hurt or freeze to death. Thank you for your concern, but I'll manage. With what? He presses. Renovation would cost at least $60,000, $70,000, probably more. Do you have that kind of money? I meet his eyes directly. I have everything I need. It's a lie, but I say it with such conviction he actually steps back. Pierce finishes the paperwork and has me sign in several places. Then he hands me a large envelope containing the deed survey maps and property documents. Congratulations. His tone suggests he thinks I'm making a terrible mistake. You now own property number 22. The address is 1847 Timber Ridge Road. Here's a map showing how to get there. And, good luck. You're going to need it. I take the envelope and the map, pick up my suitcase and boxes, walk out of the county building while 30 real estate investors watch me go, most of them still chuckling about the crazy old woman who just bought her own death sentence for $5. But I'm not listening anymore. I'm reading the map, figuring out how to get to Timber Ridge Road. I have $51.38 left. No car, no phone, no plan beyond surviving tonight. But I have something I didn't have 3 hours ago. A home. Condemned, falling apart 12 miles from civilization. But mine. Legally mine. With a deed that says Eleanor Kathleen Hayes owner. Nobody can take it from me. Not my children, not anyone. It's a start. I walk 3 miles to the edge of town carrying everything I own. My arms ache, my back protests, but 70 years of life have taught me that pain is just information, and right now it's telling me I'm still capable of forward motion. The general store appears as the sun starts dropping toward the horizon. Small building, hand-painted sign that says Porter's Camp Supply. An older man is locking the front door when I arrive, clearly exhausted. You okay, ma'am? His concern seems genuine. I'm too tired to lie. I need to get to Timber Ridge Road. I just bought a property there, but I don't have transportation. He looks at me carefully, takes in the broken suitcase, the cardboard boxes, the dirt on my coat from sitting on the sidewalk. Timber Ridge. That's way out. Not much out there, but old logging roads and forest. I know. That's where I'm going. He studies me for a long moment, then makes a decision. I'm heading home. I live out that way. I can give you a ride. I can't pay you. Didn't ask you to. Come on trucks around back. His name is Ronald Caldwell. Used to teach high school science before retiring. He tries to make conversation during the 30-minute drive, but I keep my answers brief. I'm not ready to explain that my children threw me out, that I bought a condemned house for $5, that I literally have nowhere else to go. The roads get progressively worse. Paved becomes gravel, becomes 2 tire tracks through dense forest. Branches scrape the sides of Ronald's truck. After about a quarter mile, the tracks open into a small clearing, and there it is. Even in the fading November light, even with Ronald's headlights illuminating it, the place looks like something from a nightmare. Small timber frame structure, probably built as a hunting cabin or logger's cottage. The original construction must have been solid because it's still standing, but 150 years and 15 years of complete abandonment have taken their toll. The roof sags in the middle and has a visible hole on the right side, at least 3 feet across. Every window is broken. Just empty frames with shards of glass clinging to rotted wood. The front door hangs crooked on one hinge. Vines and small trees grow up against and partially through the walls. The front porch has collapsed entirely on one side. The whole structure leans slightly to the left, like the forest is slowly pulling it down into the earth. Ronald lets out a low whistle. That's what you bought. That's what I bought. Ma'am, you can't live there. That's not a house. That's kindling waiting for a strong wind. It's my house. It's all I have. Silence. Then he sighs. Let me at least help you get your things inside. And I've got a tarp in the back. We can cover that roof hole. Won't be perfect, but it'll keep the worst of the rain off. We spend 45 minutes making the place marginally less deadly. Ronald helps me force the swollen door open with a crowbar. The wood has absorbed so much moisture, it's stuck tight. Inside is worse than outside. The main room is maybe 300 square feet. What had been a kitchen area on one side, small bedroom visible through a doorway. Everything covered in dirt, leaves animal droppings, the black stain of mold. The smell is overwhelming. Rot and decay and the musky odor of animals that have made this place their own. The floor has holes where boards have rotted completely through. The ceiling shows water damage throughout. And yes, there's the hole where you can see straight through to the darkening sky. Aggressive chattering from the kitchen area. I turn my flashlight toward it and see a mother raccoon and 3 babies watching from the top of a cabinet. The mother's eyes gleam in the light, and she is definitely not happy about the intrusion. This is my house now. I hear myself say it out loud. But you can stay for tonight. The raccoon chatters back unimpressed. Ronald goes back to his truck and returns with a tarp rope, a battery-powered lantern, and a bottle of water. Working together, we manage to get the tarp over the roof hole and secure it with rope, tied to exposed beams. It's not pretty, but it will keep rain from pouring directly inside. I've got an old camping stove in the truck. Battery-powered. You can have it. He pulls out a $20 bill. There's a store about 5 miles back the way we came. They've got basic supplies. I can't take your money. You can and you will. Consider it a housewarming gift. Now listen, I come this way every few days checking on some rental properties I own. I'll stop by to see how you're doing. But ma'am, honestly, you should reconsider this. The first hard freeze is coming any day now. This place has no heat. You could die out here. Thank you for your concern and your help, but I'll be fine. He clearly doesn't believe me, but he's done what he can. He makes me promise to be careful and reluctantly drives away. I stand in the clearing watching his taillights disappear through the trees. Then I turn to face my new home. In the gathering darkness, with wind moving through the pines and the old house creaking like a ship at sea, I feel the weight of my situation settle on my shoulders. I'm 70 years old. I have $51.38. I'm standing in front of a building that should be demolished. No electricity, no water, no heat, and a family of raccoons as roommates. Any reasonable person would break down, would admit defeat, would find their way back to town and throw themselves on the mercy of social services. But I'm not feeling reasonable. I'm feeling something else entirely. Angry. Not at my children, though I have every right to be. Not at the world, though that would be justified. Angry at myself for being weak, for letting myself become dependent, for signing over my house, for trusting people who prove themselves untrustworthy. And beneath the anger, something harder and stronger. Determination. They called me a burden. They discarded me. They laughed at me. I'm going to prove every single one of them wrong. I pick up the lantern Ronald gave me, click it on, and walk into my house. The lantern's light reveals the full disaster: floor covered in decades of debris, leaves, branches, animal nests, broken glass things I don't want to examine too closely, walls water-stained and moldy. The ancient wood-burning stove so rusted, it looks like it might crumble if touched. A crude wooden table against one wall, surprisingly intact though covered in grime. The bedroom is barely better. Small space with a broken bed frame and more evidence of animal habitation. The raccoons chitter from their kitchen cabinet perch, clearly not intimidated. I spend the next hour clearing a small area of floor in the main room. Using a stick from outside, I sweep away the worst debris, creating a space about 6 feet by 6 feet that's relatively clean. I lay out my coat as ground cloth, then open one of my cardboard boxes and pull out a blanket. From my suitcase, I take Kenneth's watch and my mother's Bible. Set them carefully beside me. The two most precious things I own. I eat half a granola bar, saved from breakfast, my only meal today. Drink some of the water Ronald gave me. Then I lie down on my coat, pull the blanket over myself, position the lantern nearby so I can see if anything approaches. The wind outside is picking up. I can hear it through the trees like rushing water. The house creaks and groans. Small animals skitter in the walls. The raccoons occasionally make noise. I'm cold. The thin blanket isn't enough against the November chill, seeping through broken windows and gaps in the walls. My back aches from the hard floor. My hands hurt from the day's work. But as I lie here in the darkness of the forest in a condemned house 12 miles from civilization, with less than $52 to my name, I feel something I haven't felt in months. Hope. This is my castle. I whisper it to make it true. This is my home, and I'm going to make it beautiful. The raccoon chatters softly as if in response. I close my eyes and, despite everything, fall asleep almost immediately. Tomorrow, the real work begins. I wake to cold so deep, it feels like it's inside my bones. During the night, the temperature dropped to just above freezing. My breath mists in the air. The thin blanket was completely inadequate, and I spent most of the night shivering, drifting in and out of consciousness. But with dawn comes light, and with light comes clarity about what I need to survive. Water, food, warmth, shelter. In that order. My back screams when I try to sit up. 70-year-old bodies aren't meant to sleep on hard floors, but pain is just information that I'm still alive and capable of feeling. I force myself upright and look around with morning eyes. If anything, the place looks worse in daylight. Sunlight streaming through broken windows illuminates exactly how filthy and damaged everything is. Water first. The property sits in forest land, which means there has to be water nearby. I spend an hour exploring the immediate area and find what I'm looking for. A small creek about 200 yards down a slight slope, running fast and clear over rocks. Probably not safe to drink without boiling, but it will work for washing and cleaning. I'll figure out drinking water later. I use the empty bottle Ronald gave me to carry creek water back to the house. Multiple trips. My legs protest the steep slope, but I push through. Each trip is information. Information about my endurance. Information about my limits. Information about what I'm capable of when there's no other choice. Back at the house, I begin the monumental task of cleaning. No broom, so I use a pine branch with bushy needles. No dustpan, so I sweep debris toward the door and push it outside with my hands. No gloves, so my hands quickly become scratched and dirty fingernails breaking as I pull up larger pieces of garbage. It's slow, exhausting work. Every movement kicks up dust that makes me cough. The smell of mold so strong it makes me nauseous. My back aches constantly from bending over, but I work steadily, methodically, refusing to stop even when my body begs for rest. By noon, I've cleared most of the main room's floor. The wooden boards beneath are in better condition than I expected, scarred and stained but solid. I realize the original builders used old-growth timber, the kind that doesn't rot easily. Beneath 150 years of neglect is quality craftsmanship that survived. The discovery gives me hope. I take a break to eat my remaining half granola bar and drink some creek water treated with the purification tablets Ronald gave me yesterday. I know I'm taking a risk, but dehydration will kill me faster than a mild stomach bug. In the afternoon, I tackle the raccoon problem. The family has retreated to their den in the damaged ceiling, clearly annoyed by all the activity. I can't evict them violently. They're a mother with babies just trying to survive like me. Instead, I make their stay uncomfortable, bang on walls near their den, play the radio from the lantern loudly, make the house as inhospitable as possible without actual harm. By evening, the raccoons have had enough. They climb out through the roof hole and disappear into the forest. I immediately stuff the hole with branches and secure the tarp Ronald helped me install to prevent their return. One less competitor for my kingdom. That night, I use some of my precious remaining money. Walk the 5 miles to the camp store Ronald mentioned. The owner, a woman named Shirley Porter, is suspicious when I come in at dusk. A disheveled elderly woman with scratched hands and dirty clothes. You need something. Her tone isn't friendly, but it isn't hostile either. Just cautious. I'd like to buy rice beans and salt, if I can afford it. She studies me for a long moment. You're the woman who bought the old Timber Ridge place. It's not a question. Word travels fast in small communities. I am. Something shifts in her expression. She rings up 10 pounds of rice, 5 pounds of dried beans, salt, a box of matches, and a large container of water purification tablets. The total should be about $35, but she only charges me $20. Neighbor discount. She adds a partial loaf of bread and some cheese. These are from yesterday. Can't sell them anyway. My eyes well up. Unexpected kindness breaking through the armor I've built. Thank you. You need work. The question catches me off guard. I need someone to help clean the store 3 mornings a week. Early shift 5 to 8. I can pay $15 an hour cash. I calculate quickly. 3 days a week, 3 hours a day, $15 an hour. $135 weekly. $540 monthly. Combined with my Social Security, that would give me enough to survive and slowly buy materials. When do I start Monday? 5 sharp. Don't be late. Walking back with supplies and the promise of work, I feel my determination harden into something unbreakable. The next weeks blur into brutal routine. 3 mornings a week, I wake at 3:30, walk 5 miles through dark forest with a lantern lighting my way, clean Shirley's store from 5 to 8, walk back, and work on the house until dark. The other 4 days, I work on the house from dawn to dusk. My hands, soft from years of domestic life, become rough and calloused. My nails permanently broken and dirt-stained. My back, which ached constantly, at first slowly grows stronger. Muscles I haven't used in decades begin to rebuild. I learn by doing. By trial and error, by simple determination. The windows are first. I can't afford glass, but I can make the openings weather tight. I gather straight branches from the forest and weave them into frames. Then I mix creek clay with dried grass and mud to create a thick, adobe-like substance. Pack this mixture into and around the woven branches, creating solid panels that block wind and rain. They're not transparent, but they keep the cold out. Light comes through cracks I leave deliberately at the top of each panel. Each window takes 3 to 4 days. 6 windows total equals 3 weeks of work. Every sealed window is a small victory. Victory against the cold, against doubt, against the voices in my head saying I can't. During one morning shift at Shirley's store, while I'm mopping the floor, she tells me her story. How her husband died suddenly 10 years ago, leaving debts she didn't know about. How she lost her house, her car, everything. How she lived in her car through a Vermont winter struggling with alcohol that promised warmth and delivered only more cold. How she found recovery one day at a time. How she rebuilt her life so slowly she barely noticed until suddenly she had enough to buy this store. Giving you this job, she says quietly. It's paying forward what someone did for me. We work in comfortable silence after that. She doesn't pry about why I'm alone, doesn't ask about my children, just accepts what I'm doing. This is what real family looks like. People who see your struggle because they've lived their own. Ronald stops by every week bringing supplies he claims he doesn't need anymore. A kerosene lamp, a wool blanket, a small camping stove. I know he's helping me, and I accept the gifts with quiet gratitude while maintaining my dignity. You're actually doing it, he says one day in early December, looking at the sealed windows with something like awe. People in town are taking bets on when they'll find your body. They'll be disappointed. One afternoon, while sealing a window, I find something behind a wallboard I'm prying loose. An old leather journal fragment, mostly destroyed by water and time. But some pages are readable, except they're not in English. Not entirely. Rows of symbols I don't recognize. Some kind of code. One page has notes in the margin, partially decoded. December 1871. Cold will claim me. Specimens must survive, hidden from profit seekers. I remember the carved initials I noticed that first night. J.B. 1871. Who was J.B.? What was worth hiding with codes and secret compartments? I copy the symbols carefully into my own notebook. After the house is more secure, I'll research this. But right now, survival takes priority over curiosity. During my next shift, Shirley mentions there's a woman in town who knows everything about local history. Pamela Richardson. Used to work in the state archives. Lives alone now, spends her time researching. Think she'd talk to me if you've got something interesting to show her. Pamela will talk to anyone. Ronald drives Pamela out to see me the following week. She's in her late 70s, walks with a cane, has eyes that miss nothing. I show her the carved initials, the coded journal fragments, the old tin I found under the floorboard. Her eyes widen. J.B. could be Jonathan Blackwood. I've never heard the name, she explains. Jonathan Blackwood, British naturalist, 1845 to 1874. Came to Vermont in 1869 to study medicinal plants, believed he'd made significant botanical discoveries, had a conflict with a pharmaceutical company trying to buy his work, disappeared in the winter of 1874, never found, work presumed lost forever, but nobody knew where his cabin was. She looks at my house with new eyes, until now. Over the next weeks, Pamela becomes my first real intellectual connection. She brings old maps, letters from archives, newspaper clippings from 1870s. We work by kerosene light, comparing my journal fragments to historical records. building a picture of who Blackwood was. Reclusive genius obsessed with preservation over profit. Wrote about plants with healing properties. Refused to sell his findings to commercial interests. I relate deeply. He was discarded too by a world that only valued money. If his full work is still hidden here, Pamela says carefully it would be invaluable. Scientifically, historically, I have more reason than ever to save this house. In mid-December, an expensive SUV pulls into my clearing. A man in a business suit steps out. Lawrence Whitmore, property developer. Mrs. Hayes, I'm here to make you an offer. He wants to buy my property. $15,000 cash immediate payment. He plans a luxury resort development. Needs to clear the land, tear down the eyesore. This house is not for sale. $20,000. Not for any price. His expression hardens. You're living in a condemned structure. Town council could force demolition for safety reasons. Be smart, old woman. Take the money while you can. After he leaves, I'm shaken. Can they really force me out after I've worked so hard? The next week proves they can try. Timothy Garrett. The town council chairman calls a meeting about my property. I attend, the only person defending a condemned house. Garrett presents his case. Structure unsafe. Should be demolished. Whitmore sits in the audience smirking. I stand to speak. This is my legal property. I have a deed. Ownership doesn't override safety code. I argue that I'm making repairs. Not endangering anyone. Living alone on my own land. One council member is sympathetic. Give her until spring. If she shows improvements, we'll reconsider. The vote is 4-3 in my favor. A temporary reprieve. But Garrett's final words chill me. Spring inspection will be thorough, Mrs. Hayes. I have a deadline now. Prove the house is livable by April or lose everything. That night, a blizzard hits. Snow and wind like I've never experienced. My sealed windows hold mostly. A few leaks, but nothing catastrophic. The roof patches keep most snow out. The wood stove keeps the small space survivable. But I'm alone in howling darkness, and for the first time I wonder if they were right. Maybe I am foolish. Maybe this is beyond what one 70-year-old woman can accomplish. I think about Brandon and Rebecca, warm in their houses. Wonder if they think about me at all. But morning comes and I survived. I shovel snow from the door, assess damage, repair leaks. Pride stronger than doubt. Christmas arrives. December 25th, my first holiday in this new life. Small pine branch, decorated with fabric strips from worn-out clothes. Ronald brings Chinese food, and we eat together in comfortable silence. Shirley's care package includes coffee sugar, a battery radio. Pamela sends a book, Victorian Naturalists of New England. I spend the evening reading by kerosene light. I'm alone in a half-ruined house in the woods, and I'm happier than I've been in years. One night in late December, while examining the ceiling for water damage from the recent storm, I noticed something strange. One section of boards has a different texture, cleaner as if protected somehow. There are scratches on a nearby beam, not random. Deliberate marks like someone wanted to indicate this spot. I can't reach it without a ladder and help. Too dangerous to try alone at 70. But I know something is up there, something intentionally hidden. That night, I lie awake thinking, what did Jonathan Blackwood hide? Why go to such lengths? And why do I feel like this house has been waiting 148 years for someone exactly like me? Someone discarded, someone with nothing to lose, someone stubborn enough to stay when everyone says run. The wind howls outside. My small fire crackles, and above me in that sealed ceiling compartment, something waits. Tomorrow, I'll ask Ronald about building a ladder. But tonight, I'm content with not knowing yet. Content with the mystery. content with being alive and warm and safe in my own home that I earned with my own 2 hands. This is my castle, my kingdom, my second chance, and I'm just getting started. January arrives with clarity that only winter can bring. 3 months after the auction, I barely recognize the woman I've become. The house is weather-tight now. Wind and rain stay outside where they belong. All 6 windows sealed with my adobe panels. The roof patched well enough that only minor leaks appear during heavy storms, and I mark each one for repair the next day. My body has transformed in ways I didn't think possible at 70. Muscles I forgot existed now announce themselves every morning. My hands look like they belong to someone who works with earth and wood instead of teacups and gardening gloves. When I catch my reflection in a bucket of water, the face looking back is thinner, harder, more alive than the woman who stood on that sidewalk 3 months ago. But Lawrence Whitmore's threat looms over everything. Spring inspection coming. Prove the house is livable or lose it to demolition. The developer wants this land badly enough to wait to pressure, to find legal ways to take what I've fought to keep. The ceiling compartment haunts my thoughts. Something hidden up there for nearly 150 years. Something Jonathan Blackwood thought worth preserving in secret. Ronald and I have discussed the latter problem for weeks. Building one safe enough for a 70-year-old woman to climb without breaking bones that won't heal quickly at my age. Finally, on a Saturday in mid-January, Ronald arrives with lumber salvaged from a barn demolition. We spend the morning constructing a sturdy ladder, testing each rung twice before declaring it safe. Eleanor, if you fall and break a hip out here, if I don't open that ceiling, I'll never know what he hid. He studies the base while I climb. My hand shakes slightly on each rung, fear mixed with excitement. At the top, I position myself carefully and pry at the boards with a crowbar, Ronald handed up. The wood resists swollen with age and moisture. I work slowly, methodically, until finally one board loosens. Behind it, a hollow space, larger than expected, and inside wrapped in what was once oilcloth, but is now mostly rotted fabric, a wooden crate. Markings burned into the side. J.B. Private, 1873. Ronald helps me lower it down. The weight surprises both of us. We set it on the floor I've scrubbed clean over months of work. My heart hammers against my ribs like it wants to escape. The crate opens with resistance, but no real difficulty. Inside, protected by layers of deteriorating oilcloth, 3 leather journals. Dried plant specimens pressed between sheets of thick paper. Detailed botanical drawings that show artistic skill beyond mere scientific illustration. And beneath those, tied with a ribbon that crumbles at my touch, a stack of letters. Ronald picks up the top letter carefully. The paper is brittle yellow with age, but the ink remains legible. These are addressed to someone named Kathleen. I take one read, the salutation. My dearest Kathleen. The handwriting matches the journals. Jonathan Blackwood wrote these to someone he loved. The first letter I read all the way through stops my breathing halfway down the page. If you find this after I am gone, know that I chose preservation over profit, and I chose you over everything. The company wanted to own my discoveries, to turn healing into commerce, to make what should be freely given into something sold to the highest bidder. I could not. I would not. Even if it meant exile, even if it meant poverty, even if it meant this cold cabin at the edge of the world, you understood my love. You always understood. This isn't just scientific work hidden from corporate greed. This is a love story interrupted by something I haven't yet learned. But portions of the journals use the same code I found in the wall fragment. Symbols I can't decipher. Ronald examines them, his retired teacher's mind still sharp. We need someone who understands historical ciphers. Pamela knows everyone connected to research and history in Vermont. When I show her the coded sections at her house the next day, she immediately mentions a name. Deborah Walsh. Used to work for the National Security Agency as a cipher analyst before retiring here. If anyone can break a Victorian-era code, it's Deborah. 3 days later, a woman with steel gray hair and intense eyes sits at my crude wooden table examining the journals by care-asleep lamplight. Deborah Walsh treats each page like it might dissolve under her touch. She photographs the coded sections with a digital camera I've never learned to use. This is a substitution cipher. Victorian style, moderately complex. Give me a week. She returns in 5 days. The coded sections tell a different story than the open text. Jonathan Blackwood was married to Kathleen. She died in childbirth in 1872. The baby died too. He retreated to Vermont, not just to study plants, but to escape memories that destroyed him. A pharmaceutical company called Consolidated Medicinals had been pressuring him to sell his botanical discoveries. Wanted exclusive rights to manufacture medicines from his formulas. He refused, went into hiding, coded his most valuable findings to prevent theft if someone found the cabin. The final months of his life, according to decoded entries, he knew he was dying, knew the cold would claim him, made peace with joining Kathleen, left everything hidden for someone who would value knowledge over gold. I see my reflection in his story. Both of us lost family. Both chose isolation over compromise. Both found purpose in preservation. But my hands have been hurting more than usual. The constant work, the cold, the strain of building and repairing. One morning in late January, I wake up and can't close my fingers into fists. My joints are swollen, inflamed, screaming with pain I can't ignore. Ronald finds me that afternoon, struggling to open my own front door, hands too swollen to grip the handle. Eleanor, how long has this been going on? Few weeks. It's just arthritis. It's not just anything. He drives me to a clinic in Burlington. The doctor, a young woman who looks at me with concern that feels like pity, examines my hands carefully. Mrs. Hayes, at your age living in these conditions, your body is under tremendous stress. This level of inflammation is serious. She prescribes medication that costs $40 I can barely afford. Ronald pays before I can protest. You'll pay me back when you can. The medication helps within days. Swelling goes down. Pain recedes to manageable levels. But the fear stays. Fear that my body will give out before I finish what I started. Fear that the developer will win not through legal maneuvering, but through simple biological limits I can overcome. I'm not invincible. My body has limits. Learning to accept help isn't weakness. It's strategy for survival. In early February, Ronald makes a phone call to a former colleague at the University of Vermont. Dr. Angela Mercer, professor of botany and historical sciences. Ronald describes what we've found carefully without making claims we can't support. She's skeptical on the phone. I can hear her voice through the receiver Ronald holds. If this is an elaborate hoax, Mr. Caldwell, I'll be very disappointed in you. But she agrees to visit. Dr. Mercer arrives on a Tuesday morning in a university vehicle carrying equipment that looks expensive and complicated. She's in her early 50s, professional, with the kind of skepticism that comes from seeing too many false discoveries in academic life. Her professional demeanor cracks within 30 minutes. She examines the journals with a magnifying glass, comparing handwriting to samples she brought from university archives, checks the Latin nomenclature against references from the 1870s, studies the plant specimens with intensity that makes her forget we're standing in a barely restored cabin in the woods. My God, the words escape her like a prayer. Mrs. Hayes, if these are authentic, if her hands shake slightly as she photographs another specimen, the handwriting matches known Blackwood samples. The nomenclature is correct for the period. These plant specimens appear to be species that were declared extinct in Vermont in the 1920s. If someone forged this, they did so with expertise that would require years of research and access to materials that don't exist anymore. So they're real. I need to run proper authentication tests, carbon dating on the paper and specimens, chemical analysis of the ink. But yes, Mrs. Hayes, I believe these are real. She arranges everything through university grants, takes samples, carefully documents everything, promises results within 2 weeks. Before she leaves, she walks around the exterior of the house, examining the structure with new interest. If this can be verified as Blackwood's actual residence, the building itself becomes historically significant. Protected. There are preservation grants, historical landmark designations. Mrs. Hayes, you might have just saved yourself and this house. The words sound like hope, but I've learned not to trust hope until it becomes fact. The 2 weeks feel like 2 years. I work on the house, continue my shifts at Shirley's store. Try not to think about authentication results that could change everything or confirm I've been chasing ghosts in old journals. Dr. Mercer calls Ronald on a Thursday, asks if we can meet at the house the next morning. Her voice gives nothing away. She arrives with a folder thick with documents and an expression I can't read. We sit at my table, Pamela and Ronald present, as witnesses to whatever comes next. The carbon dating confirms the journals and specimens date to 1871 through 1874. The ink chemistry matches commercial inks available in that period. The handwriting is definitively Jonathan Blackwood's, based on comparison with authenticated samples from British archives. The plant specimens include 3 species extinct in Vermont and 1 species thought to be extinct globally since 1890. Her voice shakes. This is the Blackwood collection. Lost for 147 years. You found it, Mrs. Hayes. A 70-year-old woman living in a $5 house found one of the most significant botanical historical discoveries of the decade. Something breaks open in my chest. Pride like I've never felt. Validation that makes my throat tight. I found it. Me. The burden they threw away. Dr. Mercer continues. The university wants to help preserve and study these materials. We'll need to create a climate-controlled storage solution here on site. We'll need to digitize everything. And we'll need to verify the structure's historical significance for landmark designation. While examining the house structure that afternoon, Dr. Mercer notices something that makes her stop mid-sentence. She's measuring the interior dimensions, comparing them to the exterior walls. Mrs. Hayes, the math doesn't work. The interior is 4 feet shorter on the north side than the exterior dimensions suggest. Ronald and I exchange glances. We've never measured carefully, never thought to question the layout. I think there's a hidden room. We search the north wall systematically, tapping boards, looking for seams, checking for any indication of a concealed space. Ronald finds it. A release mechanism hidden behind a loose board, low to the floor. Easy to miss unless you're looking for it. The panel swings inward with a sound like time cracking open. A room, 4 feet by 6 feet, sealed for 148 years. Dust so thick it looks like snow has fallen inside. Air stale and untouched. 12 more journals, complete set from 1869 to 1874. Hundreds more specimens in better condition than the first cache. Detailed drawings showing not just plants, but medicinal preparations, instructions for creating tinctures and salves. Complete letter correspondence between Jonathan and Kathleen. Their entire love story documented in ink that survived because someone cared enough to hide it properly. And in the corner, a small wooden box with an ornate lock. Dr. Mercer's professional composure fractures completely. This is bigger than anyone imagined. This is complete documentation of a Victorian naturalist's life work. Letters, journals, specimens, methodology, everything. This could rewrite our understanding of 1870s botanical medicine. The locked box sits between us like a question we're afraid to answer. No visible key. Deborah suggests we need a professional conservator before attempting to open it, but Pamela, whose knowledge of history runs deeper than any degree, picks up one of the journals from the hidden room, examines the spine carefully. Jonathan was methodical about everything. If he locked something, he left a way to open it for whoever found it. She finds the key pressed into a hollow, carved in the journal's spine. Tiny brass, perfectly preserved. My hands shake as I fit it into the lock. The mechanism turns with surprising ease. Inside the box, wrapped in cloth that's held its integrity better than anything else we've found, Kathleen's wedding ring. Simple gold band engraved with their initials and a date, 1869. A daguerreotype photograph of a woman in her 20s. Dark hair, serious expression, eyes that look directly at the camera with intelligence and strength. The photograph is rare, valuable, perfectly preserved. Jonathan's final journal, just a few pages, his last words, and a glass vial containing seeds, labeled in Jonathan's handwriting, KB Memorial Garden, seeds, 1873. Dr. Mercer gasps when she sees the vial. If these seeds are what I think they are, if they're from extinct species, if they're somehow still viable after all this time, her voice trails off into possibilities too significant to speak aloud yet. I pick up the final journal, hands trembling, read the last entry out loud, because it feels important that we all hear it together. January 10th, 1874. The cold has me now. I will not see spring, but my work is complete and hidden safely. Let those who value knowledge over gold find it. Let those who understand preservation over exploitation inherit it. Elizabeth, my love, I have planted your memorial garden with the seeds we collected together. May they bloom long after I am gone, to whoever finds this use, this knowledge wisely. Signed, J.B. Silence falls over the cabin, all of us crying. Pamela wipes her eyes with her sleeve. Ronald clears his throat roughly. Doctor. Mercer holds the photograph of Kathleen like it might disappear. He knew he was dying, made peace with it, chose dignity over survival, chose to preserve what mattered instead of selling it for comfort he wouldn't live to enjoy. I understand him completely. Dr. Mercer takes the seed vial carefully. These need immediate analysis. If they're viable, if they're from extinct species, this is beyond botanical history. This is conservation biology, genetic preservation, potential restoration of lost biodiversity. But before we can process what we've found, before we can plan next steps, the sound of vehicles approaching breaks through our amazement. Multiple engines, more than just one car. Lawrence Whitmore steps out of his SUV. Behind him, 3 more vehicles, men in suits, a woman with a camera, Timothy Garrett from the town council. Whitmore's smile is predatory. "Mrs. Hayes, I've brought some friends from the county building department. They're here to conduct an immediate inspection of this structure." Given the safety concerns raised by council members, we felt it prudent not to wait until spring. Dr. Mercer steps forward. "I'm Dr. Angela Mercer from the University of Vermont. This structure is currently under evaluation for historical landmark designation. Any demolition would destroy irreplaceable historical materials." Whitmore's expression doesn't change. Historical designation takes months to process. Safety code violations can be enforced immediately. The council has the authority to condemn unsafe structures regardless of their historical interest. "This is my property." The words come out stronger than I feel. "You have no right to enter without my permission." Actually, Mrs. Hayes Garrett's voice is cold. The council has authority to inspect structures that pose public safety risks. And given your age and the condition of this building, we have significant concerns. The next hour is a battle fought with clipboards and codebooks. The inspectors find violations. Of course they do. It's a 150-year-old structure I've been restoring alone for 3 months. They document every gap in the walls, every patch in the roof, every improvised repair, but Dr. Mercer documents right back. Photographs, the journals, the specimens, the hidden room. Calls the university's legal department on her cell phone. Creates a record of what will be destroyed if they proceed. Ronald stands beside me, quiet but present. Pamela argues historical precedent. Deborah surprisingly fierce quotes preservation law from memory. The standoff ends when Dr. Mercer's university lawyer arrives, called by the legal department. He's young aggressive, carrying documents that stop Garrett mid-sentence. The university has filed an emergency petition for preliminary historical designation. Any demolition of this structure, while the petition is under review, would violate state preservation statutes. You proceed at your own legal risk, gentlemen. Whitmore's face goes red. This is absurd. That shack is falling apart. That shack is the documented residence of Jonathan Blackwood, one of the most significant Victorian naturalists of his era. The lawyer's voice is sharp. The materials discovered here are of international scientific importance. You want to explain to a judge why you demolished irreplaceable historical evidence. The inspectors pack up their equipment. Garrett glares but says nothing. Whitmore's parting words are delivered with barely controlled rage. "This isn't over, Mrs. Hayes. Spring will come, your temporary protections will expire, and we'll see how historical your shack looks when it's a pile of boards." After they leave, I sit down heavily on the floor. My hands are shaking again, but not from arthritis this time. "How long does the petition buy me?" Dr. Mercer looks at her lawyer, who shrugs. 60 days minimum. 90 if we can stretch it. But Mrs. Hayes, we need to move fast. Get proper authentication completed. File for permanent landmark status, and we need to find that memorial garden. The garden. Jonathan wrote about planting it. Kathleen's memorial. Seeds from 1873 that might still exist somewhere on this property. Over the next 2 weeks, while Dr. Mercer processes authentication and Deborah finishes decoding every journal, we search the land. Jonathan's decoded entries mention the garden location 50 paces north from the cabin door, beneath twin oak trees. The oaks are still there. Massive old growth exactly 50 paces north. Between them, buried under decades of leaf litter and forest debris, we find stone markers, small, hand-carved, barely visible. Each stone has KB carved into it. We dig carefully. The February ground is half frozen, but we work slowly, methodically. 6 inches down, we find root systems. Plants still growing, still alive after 148 years. Dr. Mercer identifies them on site. 3 species extinct in Vermont since the 1920s, and 1 species she has to verify with her database at the university because she doesn't believe what she's seeing. These are ghost species, plants that exist in botanical records but haven't been observed in nature for over a century. And they're growing in Kathleen Blackwood's Memorial Garden like time stopped in 1873. Some of them are perennials. They've been surviving here dormant in winter, blooming in seasons nobody saw, waiting for someone to find them. Kathleen's legacy, still breathing, still alive. Emergency town council meeting gets called for the first week of March. Timothy Garrett pushing for immediate demolition order despite the university petition. Whitmore has friends on the council. Money talks in small towns struggling with budgets. I bring everyone. Dr. Mercer with authentication documents. Pamela with historical research. Ronald as a character witness. Deborah with decoded journals proving the site's significance. The university lawyer with legal arguments. The meeting room is packed. Townspeople I barely know have come to watch. Shirley sits in the front row, arms crossed, glaring at Garrett. Garrett presents his case. Structure unsafe. Owner unfit to maintain it. Public danger. Standard code enforcement language designed to sound reasonable while stripping away everything I've built. Whitmore sits behind him, smirking. Dr. Mercer presents next. The authentication results. The scientific significance. The international interest from botanical researchers. The preliminary historical designation under review by the state. The fact that demolition would destroy materials that belong not just to Eleanor Hayes, but to scientific understanding itself. Public comment period opens. Shirley stands first. Eleanor Hayes has done more in 4 months than most people do in 4 years. She took a condemned wreck and made it livable through pure determination. She discovered something that's brought attention and honor to this town. And you want to tear it down because a developer wants the land. Shame on you. Others speak. People I've only met in passing at the store. A professor from the university who drove 2 hours to attend. A representative from the Vermont Historical Society. The vote comes down to 8 council members. I need 5 to block demolition. The count is agonizing. Yes to demolition. No, no, yes, no, yes, no. 4-3 with 1 vote remaining. The final council member is a woman in her 60s who hasn't spoken all meeting. She looks at me directly. I remember when my husband died and my children thought I couldn't manage our farm alone. I proved them wrong for 20 years. I vote no to demolition. 4-4. Tie means proposal fails. The demolition order is blocked. Garrett slams his gavel. This meeting is adjourned. Whitmore storms out fury, radiating from every step. But I've won. For now. The House stands. The petition continues. The materials remain protected. Outside the building, Dr. Mercer pulls me aside. The decoded journals reveal more than just botanical research. Jonathan documented pharmaceutical formulas' ecosystem observations decades ahead of his time-species interactions that wouldn't be formally studied until the 20th century. Some of his medicinal preparations might still have therapeutic value. This isn't just history, Mrs. Hayes. This is active science. And there's more. Jonathan wasn't just running from grief and corporate pressure. He was protecting something specific. A discovery he believed could revolutionize pain management. Something derived from a combination of 3 native plants. He coded it more heavily than anything else because he knew its value and refused to let it be monopolized. Deborah has been working on that section for a week. She thinks she's close to breaking it. What happens when she does Dr. Mercer's expression is complicated. That depends on what you want to happen. The discovery is yours by right of property ownership. You could publish it freely. You could patent it. You could sell it. Jonathan hid it to prevent exploitation, but he also hid it to be found by someone who would make the right choice. I think about Jonathan dying alone in the cold. Think about Kathleen buried somewhere with their baby. Think about seeds planted in memorial that grew for nearly 150 years, waiting to be discovered. Think about being called a burden and discarded like trash. The right choice isn't hard to identify. Whatever we find, it gets published openly. No patents, no exclusive rights. If Jonathan's work can help people, it helps everyone who needs it, not just those who can pay. Dr. Mercer smiles. He would have liked you, Mrs. Hayes. Walking back to Ronald's truck, I feel exhaustion mixed with something that might be happiness. The house stands. The discovery is authenticated. The garden is protected. My arthritis is manageable with medication. Spring is coming, and with it, proper restoration can begin. But Whitmore won't stop. Garrett will find other ways to create problems. The developer has invested too much in adjacent properties to give up easily. Pamela joins us at the truck. I've been researching Consolidated Medicinals, the company that pressured Jonathan. It still exists, merged and renamed several times, but the lineage is traceable. Now it's part of a pharmaceutical conglomerate called Medicor Global, billion-dollar company with a history of aggressive patent acquisition. Why does that matter? Because if word gets out about what Jonathan hid about a pain management formula that was revolutionary in 1874 and might still be valuable today, Medicor will come looking. They'll make Whitmore's land grab look gentle. We have 60 days of protection, maybe 90. After that, everything gets complicated. Ronald drives me back to the cabin, to Blackwood Hayes Cottage, though nobody's made it official yet. The name feels right. Jonathan's work and my discovery, his preservation and my restoration. Inside the climate-controlled storage case, Dr. Mercer installed hums quietly, protecting journals and specimens from temperature swings and moisture. The hidden room remains open now, no longer secret, its contents cataloged and photographed. I sit in the chair Ronald built for me. Look at Kathleen's photograph on my table. The seeds wait in their vial, ready for planting, when spring truly arrives and the ground thaws enough to give them proper home. Jonathan's final words echo in my mind. Use this knowledge wisely. I was 70 when they threw me away. 3 months later, I've discovered work worth more than money. Work that chose honor over profit. Work that preserved beauty instead of selling it. The house everyone laughed at became priceless. The woman they called a burden became a guardian of something that matters. But the story isn't over. Whitmore will return. Spring will bring new challenges. And somewhere in the remaining coded sections, Jonathan's greatest discovery waits to be revealed. I touch the vial of seeds gently. Kathleen's memorial garden will bloom again this year. The first time in over a century that anyone will see what Jonathan planted in grief and love. From 2 women who lost everything, but chose to preserve what mattered. His legacy and mine growing together in Vermont soil. The wind outside carries hints of coming warmth. My house stands solid against it. My body stronger than it was, ready for whatever comes next. This is my castle. This is my purpose. This is my life, rewritten in my own hand, and I'm far from finished. April brings press attention I never wanted and recognition I never expected. Doctor. Mercer organizes an official announcement at the University of Vermont. The discovery of the Blackwood collection is significant enough that media outlets from Boston and New York send reporters. I stand on a stage in an auditorium that holds 200 people uncomfortable in clothes Pamela helped me buy because everything I own is work-stained and worn. Dr. Mercer presents the findings with academic precision. The authentication results, the scope of the collection, the historical significance of a Victorian naturalist's complete documentation surviving intact for 147 years. The potential scientific value of observations made before modern environmental degradation changed the landscape. Then she tells them how it was found, by a 70-year-old woman who bought a condemned house for $5 at a county auction, who lived through a Vermont winter in a structure without heat or running water, who restored it with her own hands while discovering what previous owners missed for over a century. Questions come rapid fire. How did you survive those first months? Why didn't you give up? What did your family think? The last question lands like a punch. I should have anticipated. My family didn't think anything. They threw me out before I bought the house. They called me a burden and sold the home I'd lived in for 40 years without asking my permission. The silence that follows is uncomfortable. A reporter in the front row recovers first. And now, you've made one of the most significant historical discoveries of the decade. What does that feel like? It feels like proof that your value isn't determined by who discards you. It's determined by what you do after they let you go. The quote makes headlines. Photographs of me standing in front of the restored cottage circulate online. Articles frame it as inspiration, redemption, vindication. I hate the attention, but Dr. Mercer explains it's necessary for what comes next. The Vermont Historical Society fast-tracks the landmark designation process. Normally, it takes months of bureaucracy and committee review. Media attention and university backing compress the timeline to weeks. Evaluators confirm the structure as Jonathan Blackwood's documented residence, based on journal descriptions, property records, and physical evidence, including his carved initials in the ceiling beam. Official designation comes through in early May. Blackwood Hayes Cottage Historical Site. The hyphenated name was Dr. Mercer's suggestion. Jonathan's residence and my discovery linked permanently in the historical record. Grant money follows the designation. $180,000 for restoration and preservation, enough to properly repair the structure while maintaining historical integrity, enough to install modern plumbing and electricity in ways that don't compromise the 1870s appearance, enough to create proper climate-controlled storage for the collection and build a small research center where scholars can study the materials on site. The university offers me a position, site curator, with an annual salary of $45,000. My role includes maintaining the property, facilitating researcher access, and continuing to work with Dr. Mercer on cataloging and analyzing Jonathan's work. Combined with Social Security, I'll have financial security for the first time since Kenneth died. More than security, comfort, choice. The ability to buy medication when my arthritis flares without calculating which bills won't get paid that month. But Lawrence Whitmore doesn't accept defeat gracefully. He files a lawsuit in late May, claiming the historical designation was fraudulently obtained. argues that the significance of the find was exaggerated, brings an expert witness, someone with credentials but questionable ethics, who testifies the authentication might be flawed. The hearing is scheduled for early June. I sit in a courtroom that smells like old wood and accumulated judgment, while lawyers argue about whether my house deserves to exist. Whitmore's attorney is aggressive dismissive, calls me an eccentric old woman who got lucky, questions my mental competence, suggests I might have fabricated or planted evidence to avoid admitting I'd wasted $5 on worthless property. The university's lawyer counters with documentation. Authentication results from multiple independent labs. Expert testimony from Dr. Mercer and 3 other botanists. Historical records proving the connection between the property and Jonathan Blackwood. Photographs of the memorial garden with its living extinct species. The judge, a woman in her 60s with no patience for performative outrage, asks me directly why this matters. Because things worth preserving shouldn't be destroyed for profit. Jonathan Blackwood understood that 150 years ago, when he refused to sell his discoveries to people who only saw dollar signs. I understand it now. This isn't just about a house or old journals. It's about choosing what kind of people we want to be. Do we protect what matters or demolish it for convenience? She rules from the bench. Historical designation stands. Whitmore's suit is dismissed with prejudice. Any further legal challenges will be considered harassment and sanctioned accordingly. The developer leaves the courtroom without looking at me, but his final words to his lawyer carry clearly. Adjacent properties are enough. Build around her if she wants to play guardian so badly. Construction starts in July on the parcels Whitmore owns surrounding my land. Heavy equipment tears into forests that stood for centuries. The plan, according to permits filed with the town, is a luxury wellness resort. Spa facilities, meditation gardens, upscale cabins for tourists seeking Vermont authenticity, packaged with room service and heated pools. The noise is constant during daylight hours. Trucks rumbling past my access road, chainsaws cutting timber, the diesel smell of machinery, replacing the scent of pine and earth. But the restoration of my cottage proceeds simultaneously, creating a strange contrast. Destruction encircling preservation. The construction crew is professional, careful not to encroach on my property boundaries. Whitmore may be vindictive, but he's not stupid enough to violate court orders. Still, the message is clear. If he can't force me out, he'll make my isolated sanctuary into the centerpiece of commercial development. Deborah finishes decoding the final journal sections in August. The discovery Jonathan protected most carefully reveals itself in her translation. A pain management formula derived from 3 native plants he'd identified. Willow bark extract for its salicylic acid content, which modern medicine would later synthesize as aspirin. A compound from bloodroot that he'd observed reducing inflammation. And a 3rd plant, one of the species in Kathleen's memorial garden, now identified as extinct, everywhere except this property, that appeared to enhance the effectiveness of the other 2 while reducing side effects. His notes include dosage calculations, preparation methods, observed results in patients he treated quietly while living in the cabin. The formula was effective, safe, and could be produced inexpensively from locally available plants. Consolidated Medicinals had wanted to patent it, package it, control distribution and pricing, make fortunes from people's suffering. Jonathan refused, destroyed his correspondence with them, went into hiding, died poor and alone rather than compromise what he believed. We're sitting around my table when Deborah finishes explaining what the decoded sections contain. Dr. Mercer, Pamela, Ronald, and me. the weight of the discovery settling over us like weather that changes everything. What do we do with this? Ronald's question is simple, but the answer is complicated. Pamela points out that Medicare Global, the current incarnation of Consolidated Medicinals, will be very interested once news spreads. They'll argue for patents claim derivative rights, find legal mechanisms to control what Jonathan died protecting. Dr. Mercer suggests we could patent it ourselves, then license it freely for generic production. Protect it from monopolization by making it publicly owned. I think about Jonathan's final words. Use this knowledge wisely. Think about Kathleen's memorial garden, with its extinct species still blooming, because someone cared enough to preserve them. Think about being called a burden, and proving my value through what I chose to protect, rather than what I could sell. The decision feels obvious, even though it's financially insane. We publish everything openly. Complete formula preparation methods, dosage information, all of it. No patents, no licensing fees. If Jonathan's work can help people, it helps everyone who needs it. That was his choice in 1874. It's my choice now. Dr. Mercer smiles with what looks like relief. I was hoping you'd say that. He would have liked you very much, Eleanor. The restoration completes in early October. The cottage looks like it might have in Jonathan's time, but functions with 21st century safety and comfort. Proper roof with period-accurate wooden shingles. Windows with glass that matches Victorian styles, but provides modern insulation. The exterior maintains its historical appearance, while the interior includes plumbing, electricity, heating systems, all carefully hidden to preserve authenticity. My handmade window panels, the crude adobe seals I created during those desperate first months, are preserved as an exhibit in the research center. Physical evidence of survival and determination. Before and after photographs show the transformation from condemned ruin to protected landmark. The memorial garden flourishes under Dr. Mercer's careful cultivation. Seeds from the vial Jonathan left have been germinated successfully. 3 extinct Vermont species are growing in university greenhouses, being prepared for reintroduction into protected habitats. The 4th species, the globally extinct plant that was key to Jonathan's pain formula, exists now in exactly one place on Earth. Kathleen's memorial garden that I found beneath twin oaks, from 2 women who lost everything but chose to preserve beauty anyway. November 15th arrives with cold wind and clear skies. Exactly 1 year since Brandon and Rebecca left me on that sidewalk with a cardboard suitcase. I'm in the garden harvesting the last vegetables before hard frost when I hear the vehicle. Expensive SUV, same one that carried them away from my old life 12 months ago. My stomach drops. My hands go still on the turnips I'm pulling. Brandon and Rebecca step out. Both look older than I remember. Thinner, tired. They stand by their vehicle for a long moment, clearly gathering courage. Mom. Brandon's voice carries across the garden. We've been looking for you. The anger that rises is immediate and hot. Looking for me? For how long? Since you saw me on television accepting recognition for discovering what you tried to throw away, they flinch but don't retreat. Rebecca's eyes are red like she's been crying recently or for a long time. We need to talk. I don't invite them in. Don't offer tea or comfort or the pretense that this is a normal family visit. I stand in my garden dirt under my nails, turnips in my hands, and wait. Rebecca breaks first. The words come out rushed, defensive, desperate. We saw the news coverage, the press conference. We didn't know where you were until then. We tried to find you after we realized what we'd done, but you disappeared. No forwarding address, no way to contact you. We thought maybe you'd gone to a shelter or worse, and you felt guilty. My voice is colder than the November air. We felt terrible. Brandon's control is cracking. Mom, we made horrible decisions. We know that. We just want you to understand why. Understanding doesn't erase what happened. But part of me, the part that raised these people for 45 years, needs to hear what they think justifies abandonment. Rebecca tells her story first. Her husband lost his job 2 years before they evicted me, before I knew anything was wrong. 3 children in private school they couldn't afford anymore, but didn't want to pull out mid-year. Medical emergency with their youngest. Surgery complications, extended hospital stay. $80,000 in bills, even with insurance. Drowning in debt, they hid from everyone, including each other, until there was no hiding anymore. We were desperate, Mom. Selling your house seemed like the only way to survive. We convinced ourselves assisted living was better for you, that we were helping. Brandon's story is uglier. His wife filed for divorce a month before they came to evict me. Contested custody battle, expensive lawyers, court fees that multiplied like cancer. He lost his job due to stress and depression. Sold the house to pay legal fees and child support. Made himself believe I'd be better off in assisted living because the alternative was admitting he'd chosen his own survival over mine. I convinced myself we were doing the right thing. That you'd be taken care of. I didn't let myself think about what it actually meant to take your home and call you a burden. The silence that follows their confessions is thick with things that can't be unsaid or undone. When we saw you on TV, Rebecca continues living in that condemned house working at dawn. We realized we'd failed you completely. Worse than failed. We'd abandoned you. Treated you like you were disposable. You were drowning, so you let me drown too. The words come out flat factual. They don't deny it. But seeing their genuine distress, their obvious shame, I feel something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But recognition that they're suffering too. That desperation makes people capable of cruelty they wouldn't imagine in easier times. I don't know if I can forgive you. The truth needs to be spoken plainly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I can tell you this. I set down the turnip, straightening up to face them directly. A year ago, I needed you desperately, and you weren't there. Now I don't need you anymore. I have Ronald who helped me survive, Shirley who gave me work, Pamela, Deborah, Dr. Mercer. People who saw value in me when I had nothing. People who chose to be family when blood relations chose to be strangers. Brandon's face crumples. We don't deserve forgiveness. We know that. We're not here for money. Rebecca's voice is raw. The house is successful now we know. We saw the grant money, the university position. We don't want it. We don't deserve it. Then why are you here? Because you're our mother and we needed you to know we're sorry. Because we've lived with what we did for a year and it's destroyed us. Because we had to try to make it right, even though we know we can't. The honesty in her voice breaks through my anger like sunlight through storm clouds. Not erasing it, just illuminating what lies beneath. They're not here for redemption they don't deserve. They're here because guilt has eaten them alive, and they need to face what they did. You can visit. The words surprise me as they come out. As guests. Not as owners. We can try to rebuild. Slowly, honestly, no promises. The relief on their faces is immediate but tentative. We understand. Brandon's voice is thick. Whatever you're willing to give, Mom, whatever you can forgive, we'll accept it. Rebecca's youngest daughter appears from the SUV. I hadn't realized she was there. She's maybe 7 now with Rebecca's eyes and a curiosity that reminds me of Kenneth. Grandma, are you the one who found the lost treasure? The innocence of the question, the way she says grandma like it's a title that still exists, softened something in me I thought had hardened permanently. I found some old journals and plants that nobody had seen for a long time. Can you teach me about plants? My heart, which I've protected carefully for 12 months, cracks open just slightly. Yes, I can teach you about plants. That first visit is awkward, painful, filled with silences that speak louder than words. But they leave with permission to return. With the possibility, however small, that family might mean something again someday. After they're gone, I sit in my garden and cry. Not from happiness, not from sadness, from release. From the complicated relief of choosing not to let pain define me forever. November 2021 arrives with the kind of clear cold that makes everything sharp and vivid. 2 years since the sidewalk. 2 years since $5 bought me a second life. My 72nd birthday coincides with the official recognition ceremony. The governor is coming. The Vermont Heritage Guardian Award will be presented. Published papers about the Blackwood collection will be formally acknowledged. Media coverage is scheduled, but what matters most to me is the gathering of people who made this possible. Ronald arrives early, brings tools disguised as birthday presents because he knows I always need tools. Shirley closes her store for the day, brings pie she made herself. Pamela presents me with a leather-bound copy of all the decoded journals, beautifully formatted and annotated. Deborah gives me a framed photograph of Kathleen from the daguerreotype professionally restored and preserved. Dr. Mercer arrives with the governor and a folder of documents that feel heavier than paper should. Brandon and Rebecca attend. Still, rebuilding trust. Still learning to be family again in new ways that don't involve ownership or obligation. Rebecca's daughter asks endless questions about the memorial garden. The possibility of forgiveness grows slowly, like the extinct species blooming in Kathleen's carefully tended earth. The ceremony takes place in the cottage. Too many people for the space, but nobody wants it anywhere else. This is where the discovery happened. This is where survival became triumph. The governor's speech is political but sincere. Recognition of someone who embodied Vermont values of independence, resilience, preservation. Presentation of an award that designates me as Vermont Heritage Guardian, a title given rarely to individuals who contribute significantly to the state's historical and cultural legacy. Dr. Mercer presents the published paper, The Blackwood Collection, Lost Knowledge Rediscovered. My name appears as co-author. Eleanor K. Hayes, discoverer and curator. Standing ovation from people packed into a space that once housed raccoons and rain leaking through holes in the roof. But Dr. Mercer has one more announcement. Her expression is excited and slightly nervous. The seed analysis came back last week. The results are extraordinary. She explains for everyone present. The 3 extinct Vermont species are significant. But the 4th species, the one from Kathleen's Memorial Garden, is more significant than anyone imagined. Genetic analysis confirms it's a species thought globally extinct since 1890, lost to habitat destruction and overharvesting for its medicinal properties. It exists now in exactly one location on Earth, this garden. These plants that Jonathan and Kathleen collected together, that he planted in grief and love, that survived 148 years because someone cared enough to preserve them. The botanical community wants to call it Blackwood's Memorial, scientific name pending formal classification, but the common name honors what it represents, a plant that shouldn't exist anymore, growing because two people in 1873 and one person in 2019 chose preservation over profit. The implications ripple out beyond sentiment. The species is key to Jonathan's pain management formula. With it surviving, the formula can be tested, refined, potentially developed into modern applications. The open publication, Dr. Mercer and I insisted on means anyone can research it, improve it, use it. No patents, no monopolization. Just knowledge available to anyone who needs it. Exactly what Jonathan died protecting. The ceremony ends, but people linger. Conversation flows around stories of discovery, survival, choice. The cottage that was condemned, now protected permanently. The woman who was called a burden, now recognized as a guardian of irreplaceable heritage. Evening comes, and the last guests depart. Ronald helps me clean up works in comfortable silence that speaks of friendship earned through shared purpose. After he leaves, I walk through my home alone, touch the walls I sealed with mud and determination, look at journals in their climate-controlled case, study Kathleen's photograph, her serious eyes that saw worth in a man who chose honor over wealth. Read Jonathan's final entry one more time. Use this knowledge wisely. Outside, the first snow begins to fall. Soft flakes that land on memorial garden plants preparing for dormancy. In spring, they'll bloom again. The first time in over a century that anyone will see what Jonathan planted in 1873. I sit in my rocking chair, wool blanket over my knees, watching snow through windows that used to be empty frames. The seed vial sits empty now on my table, beside Kathleen's photograph, its contents growing in university greenhouses and protected gardens. Life from the dead. Hope from grief. Tomorrow, I'll start cataloging the next section of journals with Dr. Mercer. Schedule visits from researchers studying Victorian botany. Answer emails from students writing papers about historical preservation. Continue living this life I built from $5 and refusal to accept other people's definitions of my worth. But tonight, I'm content to sit in warmth and safety, watching snow fall on a kingdom I claimed when I had nothing left to lose. 2 years ago, they called me a burden and threw me away like garbage. Today, a governor gave me an award for preserving knowledge that belongs to everyone. Today, my name appears as co-author on papers that will be read by scholars I'll never meet. Today, I proved that endings written by other people are just suggestions you can ignore if you're stubborn enough. The house everyone laughed at is now protected by state law. The woman they called foolish is now called guardian, and the story they said would end in tragedy became something else entirely. Age is not weakness. Being discarded is not the end. Sometimes the worst thing that happens cracks you open just enough to let in light you didn't know you needed. I was 70 when my children abandoned me. I'm 72 now, and I've never felt more alive. The $5 house became priceless. The burden became irreplaceable. The ending became a beginning. I'm still writing in my own hand. This is my castle. This is my legacy. These are the seeds I'm planting for futures I won't see. From Kathleen, who died too young, to Jonathan, who died alone, to me, who refused to die defeated, we form a chain across time, choosing preservation, choosing honor, choosing to believe that some things matter more than survival. The snow falls heavier now, covering construction equipment on Whitmore's resort in white that makes it look less permanent, less certain. He built his luxury development. Tourists will come seeking Vermont authenticity. And at the center of it all, protected by law and heritage designation, my cottage stands, a monument to what one stubborn woman can accomplish when everyone expects her to fail. A testament to choices made in grief that echo across centuries. A home earned board window by window, seed by seed. I close my eyes and feel Kenneth's presence like warmth beside me. Wonder what he'd think of all this. The journals and gardens and recognition. The children trying awkwardly to rebuild what they broke. The life I've built from ruins. He'd be proud, I think. Not of the discovery or the awards. Of the fact that I got up from that sidewalk and refused to stay down. The wood stove crackles. The snow falls. Kathleen's memorial garden sleeps under white blankets waiting for spring. And I sit in my castle, my sanctuary, my proof that your story isn't over until you stop writing it yourself. This is my life, rewritten. This is my second chance seized with both hands. This is my answer to everyone who said I couldn't. I did. I am. I will continue. The burden became the guardian. The discarded became the discoverer. The ending became something no one expected, least of all me. And I'm not finished yet. Not even close. There are more journals to decode, more researchers, to welcome more springs, to watch Kathleen's impossible garden bloom with flowers that shouldn't exist but do, because someone cared enough to preserve them. Just like me. Existing beyond expectation, blooming past deadline, thriving because I chose to. The snow continues, my fire burns warm, and in this house that cost $5 and everything I had, I am finally completely, impossibly home.